Y'all, I just spent 3 days down in the Okefenokee, and it was probably one of the more brutal times that I've ever spent down there. A massive cold front came through, and I mean, it brought wind like you would not believe. It was 20 plus mile an hour, 22 mile an hour one day, sustained for the whole day, and I mean sustained. So you know it was gusting higher than that. And so, but I wanted to do a piece on paddling in the wind and how to make things a little bit better. But ironically, I shot this piece down there twice, and the wind was so bad that the audio was unusable. So here I am again, fixing to head out to church this morning. But I wanted to shoot this piece while the thoughts were still fresh on my mind, because you know there are some things like, I mean, I didn't drive 4.5 hours to sit on the bank, so I was going, you know. But you got to question, first off, safety things, and number one, wear your PFD at all times. But two, you know, don't overdo your own strength. I mean, I paddled, when I did paddle in the wind, I paddled into the wind, and reserved some of my strength to be able to turn around and paddle back, and with the possibility that, hey, that wind may change, you know. And so if you're paddling into the wind thinking you're going to turn around and paddle with the wind, and next thing you know, you're paddling into it again, it could be really problematic. So, you know, wear your PFD and know your own strength. So for me, another really good point is to carry an anchor. And you're going to need to carry an anchor because you're going to have to stop the fish. But more than that, it's that safety thing. If you need to take a break when you're trying to paddle, if you do get caught on the wrong side of the wind and you're paddling into it and you're wore out, if you stop, you're going to lose all of your progress. So, if not more. So make sure that you carry an anchor on really windy days. The other thing is just be aware of the way the body of water lays where you're at. Like the swamps, you know, it's got some east-west and some north-south. So I tried my best to stay where, you know, either in some tunnels and canals where the wind wouldn't be as bad. You know, of course, that doesn't mean you're going to get to the good fishing spots sometimes if you want to, but it's that or get beat to death by the wind all day long. So I enjoyed the more secluded areas. So look for that lee spot or the secluded area that you can get to, or a higher bank where you can tuck in underneath it, and that'll help you anywhere you're paddling. But I mean, it just makes for a more pleasant day. The other thing is your boat itself. Like, I want to be in a low position. I don't want my body up in the wind. I don't want to be a sail. I want to pull my rods down. I don't want them sticking up to be a sail. I don't want anything sticking up off my boat that's going to catch any more wind than kayaks already do. And kayaks are prone to catching the wind anyway. But if you're in the lower position, one, it gives you a stronger paddle stroke, and two, it just lowers your cross profile to the wind. So make sure that you're in that low position, and then also make sure your boat is weighted correctly. Like if you've got too much weight in the back and your nose is up, every time the wind blows, you're gonna turn a wind vane, just like a wind vane, and face downstream, and then you're gonna have to turn every time you stop. You're gonna turn completely around. You're gonna have to flip all the way back around. Same thing if your nose is too much weighted. Of course, you know that's gonna make you paddle horribly anyway. But it's just gonna create problems every time the wind blows you. You know, my boats, when I weight them in, and the wind will turn them perpendicular to the bank, which is actually beneficial because it'll slow your drift as you turn to the side, because then your full length of your boat is pulling across the water. So it'll slow you down, but it'll also allow you to fish that bank or fish that bank. You know, I can flip back and forth. So there are some good benefits for having the boat weighted properly. Another tip is paddling feathered. Now that's something that I do not do. If you ever show up and you see me with my paddle feathered, turn around and go home, because it's a bad day. I don't enjoy paddling feathered, but those 3 holes on your paddle, if you have a standard paddle, or the notches where you can go if you have an adjustable paddle, that's for paddling feathered. So I will turn, you know, that 15 degrees or whatever it is, because as I'm pushing forward with one blade in the water, that other blade is literally a sail. So it's stopping any forward progress. It's impeding your boat, but it's also more effort. So if you turn that paddle and do feather, when you push forward, it's going to be slicing into the wind while your other blade's in the water. So you turn this way, it's going to be slicing into the wind. And that makes a huge difference. It doesn't seem like it would, but it makes a huge difference if there's a serious breeze out there. So just those few tips, you know, to anchor, make sure you're safe. Try to think about the lay of the water. Is the wind forecasted to change? So check your forecast. I mean, they're pretty good about getting which wind, which direction. So is there a way that you can make sure that you're heading to one way when the wind's going to change and come back another way after a while? But always be aware that you got to keep enough strength that just in case they get it wrong, because they're weathermen and ladies, so you know they could get it wrong. So make sure that you keep enough in your tank to get back to where you need to. And I don't know how I missed this part earlier, but think about tacking. Don't just go straight into the wind. Always tack where you got a little bit off this side, a little bit off this side. So just like a sailboat going back and forth, because if you just constantly into the wind, it's going to beat you to death. But the main thing is if you could find little lee areas and secluded areas to tuck off into, just to rest and fish and enjoy your day. And you know, like I said, I'm going to go. That is one thing that I'm going to go. Now, the one thing I would not play with on the wind would be offshore stuff, you know. But give me rivers and lakes and things like that, and smaller lakes. We don't have any of them great lakes. They're like oceans, but give me stuff like that, and yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to find a way to go. And if not, I'll pull out and I'll go somewhere else and find somewhere else to go. But I didn't drive 4.5 hours to sit on the bank. So hopefully these are some tips that'll help you on serious windy days, and y'all enjoy yourself and paddle on. There we go.